What I wanted to talk about is just kind of, like she said, how we got to where we're at and exactly where we are. Because I feel like a lot of times people kind of poo-poo the drug issue. It's like, oh, why are you so concerned about people getting high? Isn't there something better to fight for? Save the whales, end AIDS, end hunger, poverty. But the war on drugs, and specifically the war on marijuana consumers, is one of the few issues that impacts the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, 10th, 13th, and 14th Amendment rights that we have in America. Very few issues you could say that about.
As far as I'm concerned, one of the real untold stories that would really invite all of you to start digging into is something that Russ really also touched on, which is the extent to which marijuana enforcement is enormous business today. It is bigger today than it ever has been.
People that oppose cannabis, even the people that are against it, very few of them think we ought to lock people up for it. Just 1 in 5 Americans support the jailing of adult cannabis consumers. This is a poll from CNN Time in 2002. We've seen similar polls since 2002 that show about 3 out of 4 Americans, more or less, say that we shouldn't be punishing marijuana consumers, or if we do, we should just give them a fine. We shouldn't put them in jail. Only 19% of the people actually think we should put them in jail, and then there's that mean Bill O'Reilly 2% that think we ought to throw them in jail and charge them a fine.
This is not mostly, a sort of cultural phenomenon. This is the federal government subsidizing local law enforcement with actual dollars to do as many low-level drug busts as they can. This is burn grants. This is all sorts of block grants to law enforcement at the local level who make 99% of all the marijuana busts in this country. It is worth looking into this to understand the extent to which the marijuana enforcement is entirely incentivized at the local level. This 20-year period, just in the state that I live in, this is what that 20-year period has looked like in California. This is a wild chart, isn't it? This is the rate of arrests for everything in California since 1990.
3 in 4 cannabis users are white, but it's blacks and Latinos that spend the brunt of the time for the punishment. These 2 graphs show you adults who have ever used cannabis, 3 out of 4 are white, 9% Hispanic, 11% African American. State prisoners serving time for drug charges, it's a whole different graph. It's almost like you flip that graph into the reverse.
Not surprisingly, the focus of marijuana possession arrests are young black and brown men. In California, you have triple the likelihood of being arrested if you're black. In New York City, which is the marijuana arrest capital of the world, where simple marijuana possession is actually decriminalized and has been for decades, the police are simply just going into kids' pockets, having them empty their pockets and arresting them for having marijuana in public view.
The war on drugs has turned America into the world's leading jailer. This is a graph of Americans incarcerated. That's where Nixon declares war on drugs. That's where Reagan says, just say no. We are now up to 2.3 million Americans incarcerated, which makes us the world's leading jailer. 23% of all prisoners in the world are in America. And the number overall is even greater than China, with 1.3 billion people. We have more people in our prisons than the world's number 5 through 20 countries combined, and almost as many people as the world's number 21 through 218th countries combined, largely because of the war on drugs.
What does resonate with voters, what the polls show over and over again, is that even if we're talking about lower and lower, even if we're talking about potentially lower amounts of money, redirecting scarce law enforcement resources is a winner. People are, no matter where you are on marijuana enforcement, as Russ said, 3/4 of Americans think that people should not be, should certainly not do any time and probably should just get no more than a ticket. The fact that we're spending nearly $8 billion in this country to enforce these unenforceable laws and doing it in the most immoral, racist manner possible, that's a story that really needs to be told. Appreciate your time.